Did Trump just pardon a congressman who faked his entire life? George Santos walked out of prison this week after one of the most shocking presidential pardons in history, and his story gets crazier with every detail. Before we dive into this wild tale, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next in this saga. George Santos burst onto the political scene in 2022 as the Republican congressman representing New York's 3rd District. But almost immediately, journalists started unraveling what would become one of the most spectacular fraud cases in American political history. The man who claimed to be a successful Wall Street financier, a college volleyball star, and even the grandson of Holocaust survivors had fabricated nearly every detail of his background. The lies were breathtaking in their scope. Santos claimed he graduated from Baruch College and New York University, but neither institution had any record of him. He said he worked for prestigious firms like Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, which was completely false. He told voters his mother died in the September 11th attacks, then later changed the story. He claimed his grandparents fled Jewish persecution during World War II, but genealogical records showed they were actually Catholic Brazilians with no connection to the Holocaust. But George Santos didn't just lie to voters. He allegedly stole from them too. Federal prosecutors charged him with 23 counts, including wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and making false statements to Congress. The indictment painted a picture of systematic deception. Santos allegedly ran a fake charity, telling donors their money would help veterans and homeless pets, then used those funds for personal expenses like luxury designer clothes and credit card bills. He allegedly scammed unemployment benefits during the pandemic while he was actually employed. He inflated his campaign finance reports with fake loans to make his candidacy appear more viable. When donors gave money for his campaign, Santos allegedly diverted significant amounts into his personal bank accounts. One supporter gave $25,000, believing it would support the campaign, only to discover Santos had spent it on rent, car payments, and casino trips to Atlantic City. The House Ethics Committee launched an investigation that revealed even more troubling behavior. Santos allegedly charged campaign donors credit cards without authorization, sometimes maxing them out completely. He created fake invoices and phantom vendors to justify suspicious expenditures. His financial disclosures were riddled with inconsistencies and impossible numbers. Despite the mounting evidence and public outrage, Santos initially refused to resign. He became a controversial figure, showing up to congressional votes while most colleagues from both parties avoided him. Some representatives openly called him a fraud on the House floor. His presence became so toxic that he was removed from his committee assignments. Finally, in December 2023, the House of Representatives voted to expel George Santos, making him only the 6th member ever expelled and the first without a conviction for treason or supporting the Confederacy. The vote was overwhelming and bipartisan, with even many Republicans from his own state voting to remove him. But the legal troubles were just beginning. Santos faced trial on multiple federal charges that could have resulted in decades in prison. Prosecutors had overwhelming evidence, bank records, witness testimony, electronic communications, and his own contradictory statements. Legal experts considered his case nearly impossible to defend given the documentary evidence. Then came the stunning twist. President Donald Trump, in one of his most controversial acts since returning to office, granted George Santos a full presidential pardon. The decision shocked political observers across the spectrum. Critics immediately denounced it as an abuse of presidential power, questioning whether Santos had connections or leverage that influenced the decision. Some pointed to Santos's loyalty to Trump during his brief congressional tenure. Others suggested it was part of a broader pattern of pardons for political allies. Trump defended the pardon by claiming Santos was a victim of political persecution, arguing that Democrats had weaponized the justice system against him because he was a Republican congressman. The president suggested that many politicians exaggerate their backgrounds and that Santos was being held to an unfair standard. This justification did little to quell the controversy. The pardon means George Santos walks free without serving any prison time and without a criminal record. He cannot be prosecuted for the federal crimes detailed in the indictment. However, He still faces potential civil lawsuits from victims who lost money through his alleged schemes. Several donors have already indicated they plan to sue to recover their funds. Santos's story represents a remarkable fall from grace. In less than 3 years, he went from newly elected congressman to expelled member to convicted fraudster to pardoned individual walking free. His case has reignited debates about background checks for political candidates, the limits of presidential pardon power, and whether the justice system treats political figures differently than ordinary citizens. The long-term implications remain unclear. Some believe Santos will attempt a political comeback, perhaps running for office again or becoming a conservative media personality. Others think his reputation is so damaged that he'll fade into obscurity. What's certain is that his name has become synonymous with political deception on an unprecedented scale. The George Santos saga raises uncomfortable questions about truth in politics, the accountability of elected officials, and the power of presidential clemency. His story will likely be studied for years as either an example of justice derailed or political persecution, depending on your perspective. If you found this story as unbelievable as we did, make sure you're subscribed to stay updated on what George Santos does next, because with his track record, there's definitely more to come. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts on this presidential pardon, and we'll see you in the next video.